Hello fellow map makers, welcome to another live map making session. I'm Ralph Sherman of Fantasy Software, and I'm here to show you a bit of Campaign Cartographer and today specifically Dungeon Designer, our map making software. Hello to everybody out there. I see some new people are in the chat, which is very nice to see. Perhaps a few more new users will get to see it from the Humble Bundle that is currently running. Got quite a few new people from that, and I want to create a little basic dungeon video today to show you the basic functions of Dungeon Designer and how to go about designing a underground layout. And so I've got something, a video that I can point people to, but of course old-timers are as welcome, and I'll be happy to answer any specific questions during the session. Just put them in the chat and we'll see what we can do to show the answers on screen. So if you're struggling with anything specific in dungeon making, let me know and I'll see whether I can cover it. Also, if you do like our videos here, do consider giving them a thumbs up and a subscription perhaps, and that does help out the visibility of the channel, so more people get to see it. Alright, so let's see how we can go about. I'm here in the basic interface with one of the Dungeon Designer example maps on screen that comes with the software, with Dungeon Designer specifically. And one of the catalogs from Dungeon Designer loaded and the Dungeon Designer interface open. If you've got just Campaign Cartographer, you'll have this as well. You can switch to the Dungeon Designer interface, but you'll just have a little bit of a limited selection of styles and catalogs and symbols available to use. The selection expands significantly if you've got Dungeon Designer. So let's see how we go about starting a Dungeon Designer style. As usual, we go to our new map icon up here on the file toolbar. Click that, save our changes to our current map, and the map type is naturally going to be Dungeons. Dungeons is always a little bit of a misnomer. It works for all kinds of floor plans. We also have the floor plan section map type in here, which is generally used for more modern types of floor plans. If you were looking to do, for example, in tavern layout or something, you can, for a fantasy map, you can also go with the Dungeons map type. And then we click next, and we get to choose from the different styles. We do have one thing that comes with the basic Campaign Cartographer, which looks very similar to the DD Dungeon Designer style, is the CC3 dungeon. This is basically a demo version of the Dungeon Designer function, and I've seen people get a bit confused about these. If you've got Dungeon Designer, do not use the CC3 dungeon style. That is just a cut-down version of the DD3 dungeon style. So basically, we should probably really remove these CC3 dungeon styles nowadays. They are from the time when there was nothing really for dungeons in the base program, or hardly anything, and we introduced that to give a taste of dungeon mapping. But nowadays we've got a full dungeon style with, I think, the John Roberts dungeon is in the base program, and so that is not really needed anymore. But anyway, we are going for the DD3 dungeon style here. We also have the expanded versions here on the list. That is with all the extra material from the Bogey collection and the user art collection, CSUAC. But I don't want to go into these because that's a bit of an extra stuff that not everybody has. It's available for download from the website, but it's an extra install and not directly supported by ProFantasy. So I'm not going to do that in this mapping session. I'm just going to go with the basic DD3 dungeon style. Click next. And then I set the size of the map in feet. The default size is always 1000 by 800, but if you choose that for a dungeon layout, you'll have a lot of mapping to do, because that's a very large area for a floor plan, and realistically sized stuff will pretty much vanish. Thanks for Sue for reminding me. I'm flickering on screen again, I guess, with the video. Yes, I always have to change that at the beginning. Just a sec, please. I gotta fix that. That's because the refresh rate gets always set back to 60 hertz, and I need to set it back manually to 50 hertz. I have no idea why this setting will not stick in OBS, in the casting software I'm using. Anyway, here it should be fine now. So I've got a first question there in the chat from first. Can the default be changed? Which default? The size default of the map in here? Yes, it can. That's theoretically, if you change the size of the template, it will use a different in here. But then lots of other setups like symbol size and effect settings can be key to this size and then rescaled from their base. So that's why we try to keep to the base size here for the maps. That makes a lot of the calculation stuff easier. But if you change the size of the underlying template, these will change here. All right, so, and I'm going to do a 200 feet by 160 feet size for the map we are doing here. That should be fine for the layout I have in mind, and something I can reasonably fill in a session perhaps. So let's have a look. I'm not going to put in a map title, but I'm going to click next, and I do want to change my background. The default is this brown dirt background, but I do want to go for something else. I'm thinking more of a rocky background for my dungeon, so I'm gonna take a look and go for a dirt background. Now I'm thinking, do I want to go dark or light? I could, the 5 of dirt gray, see, is the darkest of the ones. I could go for the lighter one texture, but I'm thinking I want my lighter floors to stand out against the dark background, and so I'm sticking with a fairly dark background here. I could go for straight black or something as well, but for now I'm going to stick with the dirt gray background. I'm not going to do an overlay at this point here. I'm going to add that later manually. So I'm just going to click finish here at that point. And I'm going to go. And I'm already thinking about doing a dwarven entrance hall. An entrance hall of a dwarven colony or kingdom or something like that. Something a bit grand. And so on. Call this dwarven entrance hall. And here we are with our empty map and the dark background. And now I want to see how I proceed from here. First off, I'm going to think about the grid. I didn't set the grid in the template, so I'm going to so I can show you the tools right here. This is turning this on, brings the button, the grid dots on screen, which will probably difficulty to see. So I'm just going to make them a bit larger for the moment. You can set the grid dot style in the select grid system menu. We've got a 5 grid 5 snap size, which is probably, I'm going to switch to something a bit larger, 5 grid 2 snap, because I'm thinking of larger rooms. That might be a little bit easier to draw with my mouse. And I also want to snap with the mouse to the grid. And here you can see the dots a little bit more clearly on screen. Not very pretty. I'll probably turn them back to something smaller in a sec. So you can see the grid here for the moment. Snap is basically, if you right click on this and bring this option here up, setting snap here means that your point that you place will always snap to the next button it finds on screen. Another thing I find useful is the cursor, turn on cursor snap, which gives you visual feedback immediately. That means the cursor will also, if you're in a drawing tool, will also automatically snap to the next grid button, and you'll see where you'll be placing your next point. You can turn that off from here directly. If you turn off snap here, the snap function will also be disabled. It's basically the same as doing it here from the right click menu. Okay, so, and then let's see how I'm thinking I want to have an entrance here on the left side of the map, and then a smaller welcome hall, and then a bigger throne hall or something in the map. That's my general layout idea. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a couple rooms to show the base size, the rooms I want to add there. So I'm going to go for the add room command, and I can left click it, and then I get the choices for the room. I can do a square one, a round room, a rectangular one, and also one where I can click each corner individually, so I can do an irregular shape as I want it. I'm going to go with the rectangular here for the base size, and then I can set my floor backgrounds and the walls and floor foreground. I'm going to go with the floor background first. I do want something stately, so I'm with smooth stone. We've got the stone gray tiles here, for example, which are very nice. So they should stand off fairly nicely against the dark background. I could also go for just the tones, although those are the tiles. I do have, there should be a flat version here. That's the one without any markings. Let's go with the tiled version for this to start off. All right. Then there's also the floor foreground, which is basically another layer of texture you can put on top of the other ones. For example, if you wanted to have something that is covered in dust, you could put a broken dirt texture on top of that with spots where the floor shines through. But since I want a clean and stately dwarven hall, I'm not going to do that. And for this, I'm going to disable the floor foreground here. And then there's the wall texture I want to use. I don't want to use the cobble bitmap here. So let's have a look what else we can do. For big stone walls, we can always use the flagstone bitmap, which gives the impression of larger blocks of stone which make up the wall. We can, of course, go with something just the rough stone, or the stonework cobble here is also an option, though I'm not thinking about cobbled walls or small stone walls here. Could use the rough tiles, but that's fairly similar to the base floor. So, or just a dark dirt, but we already have the very dark gray as the background there. I think I'm gonna stick with what did I have? The flagstones up here. The gray flagstones I think would work nicely. And then we have the wall width. Basically, I want to have this is set in the rock, so the wall should probably merge into the rock mostly, but I do want it to have a nice offset, so I'm going to make it a bit wider here for the main halls at least. Okay, And then I'm just going to click OK. And now I can set the size of my room. I can draw my room here. For example, so I'm thinking this is about the center, the vertical center of the map. If I, for the main, or for the entrance hall, let's start here. Give it this width, and then I'm drawing down to here. I can always take a look here up at the coordinates. That tells me how large my room is now. See my I'm going 60 feet, so that's about 20 meters down, which is already a nice big hall, but I wanted to make it a bit larger, so let's make that 70 feet wide. And there's my base of the first room. And then I just want to add the second one, just a little bit larger or a little bit wider, but much deeper. So I'm thinking I'll be putting in some corridors in here between these, but or more like archways, like this. And I want to keep room for some small rooms at the back. So this is 75 feet deep, sounds fine. And there. I've got a question there from Sue whether, I don't know where anyone in the chat gave that question, yeah, or Sue directly, whether the bundle will be extended. I can't say at the moment. I don't know, haven't heard anything about that. It's not unlikely, bundles quite often get extended, but that's mostly a Humble Bundle decision, and I don't know yet. Alright, so here's my two halls. That's just basic layout so far. And as you can see, we've got a little bit of a drop shadow here on the walls. We've got a bevel effect on the walls, which is quite nice. But I'm thinking I don't want the bevel, the drop shadow effect on the walls. That's because this gives the impression of a freestanding building, something like that's outside the walls of a house, which cast a shadow. And here this is underground, so I don't want to have this more sunken into the surroundings. So what I'm going to do, I can do a couple of things. I can do either put a glow on the walls, or I could remove the wall shadow on the walls and put a inside glow on the floor, which would kind of look similar, but not have the glow outside of into the surrounding rock, basically. But since that's already pretty dark and I wanted it smooth into the background, perhaps putting the glow on the wall is the better option here. Let's give it a try. I'm going to go in, and this is the list of sheets where everything is on, where we apply sheet effects, and I want to look at the walls here and see this is the wall shadow directional. If I turn that off and click apply, you'll see that the wall shadow on the walls is gone. We've already got a bit of a glow here. It's an outside glow. Let's see, that's the small dark glow on here. It's pretty strong, but very small, so you get this strong dark glow here. But I do also want a little bit of a softer one, but that is wider. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and put this up here. And I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to remove the strength and make it much wider. Apply, and see that you get this dark outline here and also a bit into the surrounding rock. But I quite like that. So that's more to my liking. That does look more sunken into the rock than the previous version. I've got the question from Versus whether I can't just hide the outside shadow behind the rock layer. Yes, I could do that, but that does require extra drawing of the rock layer around everything after I'm done with the layout, and that can be a bit complicated, and I wanted to keep it simple, and it's not quite obvious from the start how to do that, so I'll not use that option in this dungeon. Alright, so that's so much for that. Now I want to connect these with, I'm thinking of 3 archways that are leading from the entrance hall into the main hall. And I'm going to show you how to add these with corridors. So let's have a look here. Go into my corridors. And see they have the same layout as the same bitmap textures and stuff as the rooms. They keep that, but I want to make them wider. If I look at this one dot is the distance is 5 feet, so I want to make it two grid spaces wide. So that would be 10 feet. So my corridor width should be 10 feet. And then no end wall is fine. I want to connect these to the existing ones, so I'm just going to click OK. And I do get the options here, what I can do with the corridors. Down here in the command line, you can see B, connect to wall, connect, C is connect with no break. But I do want to put a break here into the wall, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit B, and then again click on the point where the wall should connect. And then again for the second one, and a refresh, and let's see, there's my nice corridor connection in there. I'm going to repeat the command. One here, and need to one here. And actually, I forgot to hit the B on the second one here. Sorry about that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo this, and because cleaning this up manually is a kind of a pain, so I'm just going to undo these 2 sections and correct this. B and B again. That looks better. And this one here, and this one there. And there we are. And there's my... Yeah, and then we do have you've got a bit of a nice thing here with this wall. That can happen if you get a double node in the wall, basically. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hide everything but the walls layer, and I'm just going to remove this section of the wall. Then I use extract properties on the existing piece of wall to get the same width and fill style and layer as all the others, and then just going to put it in as a path to here. There we go. It's not quite long. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to do something to even easier. I'm just going to grab use a copy. I'm going to copy this section over from up here down to here, and now I do have this looking just like the others, and I'm going to show everything again, and there my section is cleaned up. Yeah, I've got a comment there that you can do all these with separate drawing tools, of course, which can sometimes be easier, but putting down basic shapes like this, especially with the corridors, there the wall, room and corridor tools are quite nice, but you can also do just everything with the wall and floor tools, and they allow you to do the same thing here on the floors. Perhaps a little bit more, with more control, with about every node, because you're not doing floor and walls at the same time. But this can save a little bit of time. Alright, so that's one thing. But I do also want to have a main entrance here, or some doors that open up to the outside and gives us a nice view of the little bit of the outside world there. So I want to add do something about that. So I'm thinking I do want to put a gap into the wall here. I could put a gap, or I could just do a little bit of a very wide corridor extension, just as a trick. Yeah, let's give that a little try. I don't want the walls opening directly into the halls. I wanted to have a little bit of a doorway or something, or I might call it a tunnel at the entrance here, and I'm gonna do that with a very wide corridor. So instead of my 10 feet corridor here, I want a 50 feet corridor. And I'm just going to use this as the center point. Oh, actually, I should connect this with the B. Break, because I need to break the wall here. And then just a little bit of... There we are. And there we've got our very wide corridor opening. Okay, so that's nice. And then let's see whether I can put a little bit of greenery out here or outside world. So let's have a look at our terrain tools. So let's put some brown dirt here. I'm gonna start with a snap and connect this directly to these points, but then I'm going to turn off snap because I want to create this a little bit irregularly, like this. There. Draw it all the way back to my starting point, and then right click, and there's my general outside area. But I also want to add a little bit of a road entrance, or we'll probably be adding some stairs here at some point, but I don't want to have this all dirt. I want to have a gray gravel or something like that, piece of the terrain here. Let's have a quick look if I want to check where my stuff is located. I always use the extract properties command. Then I can see this is the outside sheet on the background layer. That's the fill style used there. And I want to have something also on the outside, but which fades a little bit into the brown background. And for that I do need a second sheet, because I want a... Oh, I should actually add outside too. That's going to be on top of the outside layer, and I can add an edge fade effect with like a 2 feet transition. And there we go. And if I now use a terrain tool, like what do I have here? Do I want the flagstones? I'm going to try I'm going to use one of the grays. I'm going to use the going to turn on snap again. Going to extend this a bit underneath our inside. There we go. And you can see here that the gray fades into the brown at the edges. So I'm thinking this is obviously a bit wide for one gate, so I'm thinking we've got a set of multiple doors with some walls in between. So, but then I do need a bit of wall section to set off these gates. So I'm gonna click my wall drawing tool and right click to get the different selections, and I've got all pre-configured walls in here, but probably not something as wide or in that fill style that my already drawn walls are. So I'm going to go with the wall current fill current width and set this to our flagstones. Where's our flagstones we used? There's our gray flagstones for the walls. And the width was 2 feet. Okay, so, and I could just draw the corners from here, but then I got this ugly little spot where the two lines don't quite connect. So I'm going to start, actually, it's another little trick. I'm going to start halfway up the line here, then draw to the corner, then draw to here, and this way, if I refresh this, you'll see that they connect nicely. But I notice I don't have used the exactly the same fill style. That must have been another flagstone fill style. There's quite a few different ones in here. So just to be sure, I'm going to hide everything but wall sheets. Use extract properties. There we go. Then I've also got the color correct. Then I'm going to show everything again. And now I'm going to use the wall current fill current width. Same procedure. Click and here. And the same down here. There we are. And how wide are we going to do this? 2 doors or 3 doors? How many should we do? Let's do 3 doors. There's our openings, and now I'm going to put in some doors by clicking the door symbol catalog up here. And we've got some nice wide double doors here, and I'm going to grab this. Let's have a look. They're exactly the same size by default. So I'm going to put one here, and I'm going to make one half open. Yeah. There we go. And then I'm thinking I might also want to put in some pillars, and how best to do them is to use the same fill style as the walls and the same layer, but do them as circles. So, and for that let's just show you for a moment here. I'm just gonna grab the circle tool. I've got already everything set up for my drawing properties here, like the layer and fill style. Click here, and that's now my snap might get a little bit in the way because I've got such a large snap set that I can't draw a smaller pillar. So we can always switch to a different grid setting in between with more snap points. Here we go. Let's try again. And just one. There we go. And the thing is, you'll see the circle has the same edit, undo, same width as the walls. And that's not really what I want. I want it to have a 0 width, so it's just a plain circle. So what I'm going to do is I could use just the change properties, but I can also just change line width as a specific change operation. Click that, select my circle. So I've got depict, press D for do it, and then 0 is already the default, so I can just right click to accept that, and then the line width is set to that. And I can now either use extract properties and draw the next one, or what's even easier, I'm just going to copy this one, press D for do it, select my center point and put that up here. And actually I want to do 2 more. One here and one here. Very good. Zoom in, and that's my entrance hall done. So let's have a look at the back hall here. I'm thinking I should probably be a big throne here at the end, and then some side corridors and side doors, and also perhaps some flanking pillars or columns alongside the walls. So let's start off with the pillars. I'm just going to grab my existing ones again. It's easiest. The center and just put them on the points here. Actually, I'm going to go back to my bigger grid here because I don't need the fine selection now. It makes it a little bit easier to hit the spots. Actually, I should put one in here, yes. And of course, when I've done a whole line like this and I just want to have it on the other side, I can grab it from there and copy it down here. What I can also do is do a mirrored copy. That makes it's definitely same on the other side. I just have to see my center line I want to mirror along. This is from here to here, and there's my row on the southern side. Okay, so I now need a bit of a platform here for my throne to sit on, and I already know what I want that the texture for that. I do want the basic stone. Let's grab the basic stone fill style for that. But how do I do a platform? It might be something just like the floor. So let's go in here, and with my basic stone, there's basic. That's the bevel tiles, basic stone clay fret. This is the one I want, and say I want my first bit of the platform be here. There we are. But the problem is, you see, it's sitting flat on the floor. I don't have anything that marks this as a differing height. And what we can do there is, similarly to the outside sheet that we added, we can add a floor sheet that has a few extra properties. So I'm gonna, this is my floor sheet. I'm gonna add, oops, not, I want to add a sheet. Floors 2. And I'm gonna add the same kind of glow as on the basic floors sheet. But I also want the bevel that is on the walls. I'm going to grab the bevel effect here, copy, paste, but move that up, click, and then I do need to move this section of floor I drew to the new sheet. So I'm right click the sheets and the effects button, select move to sheet, select my put it on floors 2. And there we see the dark glow on the inside doesn't work so well. It's a bit too dark, and we also got these little tiny pieces of interference here. That's a bit of a effect where two pixels of exactly the same color on top of each other from the floor below and this one, you get these interferences. And to fix these, you know, to put something between the bitmap sheets. I'll show you in a sec. First off, I want to make the glow softer. or have it, go. What we do there is we add a sheet for fix between these two, move up, choose a color that's not a gray, something completely different, and a solid fill style, and 0 width, and just gonna put this here, and then you can see that the effect is gone. That's because we've got a color separating the two different pixels of the same color on a sheet in between. Yeah, as Sue said, the technical name is transparency acne. Very technical. It's just some it has basically made itself the term we use for that. Okay, there we go. But I'm seeing that I'm actually sitting here not on the center line with my platform, so I could just move this a bit. But what I also can do, I can stretch this a bit if I wanted to keep this at this extension. Or should I just move it? No, I'm just going to move it. I'm just going to use the move command, select my bitmap, select that point, and move it down to here. And now it does sit in the center. And if we now wanted to put a throne on that, I could go to my furniture catalog, click the follow furniture here, have a look what we've got. We've got some big chairs and armchair, but I'm not sure we have an actual throne in here, which is a bit of a shame. We've got all these. No, I don't think we have a throne in here as such, but I'm just going to use the chair instead, the armchair here, which is nice and big. But I'm going to use a varicolor version. As you can see, they have different colors, and one of them is a varicolor. And I will select a color here. You see that the interior of that will change to that color. I'm going to grab that. Going to align that by holding down Shift and moving the. So I'm rotating that, and I'm going to make it a bit larger. It's a bit more impressive. It's too large, 1.5 here. And I'm going to put the chair here, like this. And we've got the wall shadow here, or the drop shadow on the chair. And I think it's perhaps a little bit too large. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my extract properties again. I'm on the symbols sheet, and I'm going to make that shadow a little bit smaller. Or I could just put the chair on the. Do we have a symbols lower? No, we have symbols flat, which won't cast such a shadow. But what I can do, I do. No, I'm just going to change this here. We could also add different symbol sheets for different lengths. But this will be fine for here. We can also always create one that is larger. So, and think he might have a family sitting there or something. So I'm going to add a couple chairs in a smaller size to the sides. There we go. And there we go. There's that. We've got lots of other symbols like pillars and other religious stuff here, and I'm thinking I might add some embellishment to the pedestal here. I could add a stone statue. We've got some more. I've got some busts here. I'm thinking I might do a grey version of the bust. See, like that, but perhaps a little bit darker. There we go. And if we zoom in, I'm gonna add them here. Now I'm thinking these are, you see my cursor snapping. This is the cursor snap. I'm thinking I might want this smaller grid here again. So I'm going to go for the, and you see I can adjust it with smaller steps. One here. And say they've got statues of the ancestors looking over their shoulders there. Which I quite like as an idea for the dwarfs. And like this, these are sitting on top of the chairs, which doesn't look quite right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move the chairs to the front, select them, press D for do it, and now that looks better. So do we have a nice kind of ornate? I'm thinking about something covering the floor here, some kind of ornate rock or something, but our rocks are not that impressive, I think. Let's have a look. Well, it's not too bad, but I'm thinking I might probably draw something later, some kind of longer carpet leading up to the throne or something like that. For now, I'm fine with the throne pedestal here. Alright, so now for some side rooms. I do want to create some side rooms and tunnels leading off the throne room here, so let's do that, because I can then again show you a bit of how we could use for that perhaps different tools. We might not use the... Yeah, let's go for a little bit of an excursion and see whether we use the floor drawing tools. So I'm gonna right click the floor drawing tools button here. There we go. And you see you've got the same kind of tool here, but it doesn't have any walls on it. So I'm just going to click that. Oh, I didn't do an extra click here, which caused this. Sorry about that. Let's go again. Floors. There's my gray floors. And I'm going to switch back to my larger grid. So I'm thinking a 10-foot corridor is perhaps for this side. Perhaps you've got one major corridor going off from each side. And I'm just going to do this like this. There we are. And then I'm going to add side rooms like this. And one to the other side like this. Actually, I might want to extend at least this one here. And there I forgot a corner, but I can, with these tools, the good thing is I can always go in. No, not the caves, the floors. There. I can always see E for edit. Click the point I will start my edit, the additions, and then right click to finish my edit point. And there we are. Now I want some, obviously need some walls for these rooms here. And there I'm gonna click the default wall. And we said we had the, see whether I've got these as stonework cobble. No, I don't think I have this specific thing set up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my specific dwarven wall here for this. I'm going to just quickly show you this. I'm going to click Advanced. I'm going to go to the wall drawing tools. for the wall stone here, for example. And I'm gonna click new and give it a new name. Say this is gonna be my wall dwarven hall. In the properties, I need to set my fill style. And we have the flagstone, but let's grab the correct one. This time it's with the larger version of the fill, flagstone G bitmap. And the big walls here were 2 foot wide, but for the side walls I want something a little bit not quite as wide, so I'm going to try it with 1 foot width, and I'll leave everything else as is. Click OK, save the settings, and then I can just draw these walls here along my existing corridor. I can stop here where the corridor leaves the map. There we are, there and there. And you can see, if I zoom out, same kind of style, just the walls are a little not quite as wide, which I quite like as a contrast to the main hall. But what we don't have here at this point is the doorways. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go into the doors again. And I can, for example, just break a section into the walls here. And that works with the wall cutter here. See, we've got a couple different ones, a 10-foot wall cutter, a 5-foot wall cutter, or a 3-foot. The 10-foot would break the whole thing here. And the 5-foot, half of that. Actually, I think it scales to the size. If I disable smart symbols, no, that's actually is that a bit larger than expected? Ah, no, my scale is off. That's why. Set normal back to the scale because I scaled the throne. That's why my scaling is off here. More, and this should be the 5-foot. Yeah, Sue just tells me. But I'm thinking just half of this width for the archway going through this, but perhaps a bit too small. I don't want to break all of it. Don't use the 10-foot, but I can simply scale this one. So instead of 5-foot, let's make it 7.5 feet. And there we are. And there I've got my brick in the wall. Very nice. Here, I don't want to make a brawl there. I want to set in a door. I might even set in a secret door, I'm thinking. So there might be a little obscured side entrance. So, quite secure. Secret doesn't make much sense because it's not too far away from the main exit here. No, I'm just going to put a stone door in there. Normal sized one. Set normal. There, and see the door also automatically breaks in a gap into the wall. In here, I'm just going to put in some wooden doors. Oh, there we go. And that's all set. I could also put in some stairs leading down there. I'm thinking this section might then lead into lower depths. I'm going to load up the stairs. You can see here are some from the other symbol sets from the Bogey user collection. This is in the default thing here. See, we've got the down steps here. There we go. If you don't want the big red arrow, you can always go for a more subdued color with the varicolor symbols. And I'm just gonna, for this, I don't want any shadows and stuff on this, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this on symbols flat. And there's the stairway leading down. See, it does extend here a bit beyond the map border, but we can always cover that up later with putting a color, a screen around the map. let's just show you. See if we've got stuff extending beyond the map border. We can always go File. Oh no, actually we don't. I don't have it on the menu. Alright, so we do need to type in color. And then we can just accept the defaults, and Gotoco will automatically put a white outline around the map that hides anything beyond the map border. There we go, and I see my time is running away. The hour is almost over. I wanted to add more side rooms like this on the other sides, but you see what I did there basically. So now one thing I might want to do is add a grid to the map. So it might interfere a little bit with our nice tiles, but let's have a quick look. So say I wanted the typical 5-foot grid for battle map on the map. I would set the color I want that to be, and then I'm gonna set draw hex or square overlay, and I want a square grid, and I want a 5-foot grid. I don't want any labels on that. Set snap grid is fine. That will add just another grid selection here for us. And just apply. And you can see it is very faint and visible, aligning mostly with our already existing grid in there. Let's turn on off this grid. It doesn't look so nice here on screen, but it will look fine printed. You can also do a little bit of different things. Say if you didn't want it in these dark lines, you go more of a light grid. What you could do is change the properties of the grid. So change properties, grab, do we have the whole grid selected? I know, we've got the grids layer is frozen by default, that's why we can't select it. So we go to the layer dialog, uncheck the F for frozen here, and now we can select the grid. And we're gonna change it a little bit. We make it, at the moment it's a zero width line, which is always as narrow as possible, both on the print and the on screen. That is always very nice on screen, but because printers have a much higher resolution than the screen, it can be a bit hard to see on the print. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a 0.05 line width, make it a white color, and fill style solid. Or something else even. I'm going to make it a solid white fill. So these are transparent, partially transparent solid colors. So let's just make it a 50% white. And we do refresh. The display makes it a bit hard to recognize probably. I'm gonna remove the effects on the grid sheet, and hard to see on screen. That's because the very not quite zero width but narrow width lines always display a little bit differently on screen. Sometimes you'll get a full pixel, then it's not a full pixel and it vanishes on screen. That's why it does look so intermittent. This would look much better on an export or on the print, but it's not very good to show on screen. So what am I going to do? We're just simply going to go back. Just going to undo this and go back to our existing sheet effects and rely on this. And there we are. And you can see here the grid lines are very narrow. There you can see the dark line with a little bit of light glow around them to make them more visible. There we go. And you can always hide and show these as necessary. So if you want to print a battle map, you can leave the grid on. If you just want to do an overview map, you can hide the grid sheet or grid layer. And then we've got our Dwarven Hall again, without the grids. Alright, and that's the hour of mapping I was planning to do today. And I was hoping to show you a little bit more, but got a bit distracted with my Dwarven Halls and everything. So this will have to do for now, for today. And hope you did see a bit how things work, how you use the tools, the corridors and rooms, and the drawing tools, add a grid, use symbols. Okay, and as I said in the chat before the video started, there will not be a video next week because it's May the 1st and that's a holiday here, and I'll not be around to do a video. But I'll be around during the week before that, so if you have any questions, do send them to us either from your registration page. There's a support form there that you can use. You can chat with us on Facebook or in the user forum. Sue is always there. I drop in here and there, and we always endeavor to answer any questions you might have. And of course, lots of very helpful and friendly users out there who will be happy to share their knowledge with you. So for now, goodbye, happy mapping. Do remember to give us a like and a subscribe here on the YouTube channel, and keep up the great mapping. Thank you very much. Bye bye.